Last night I found myself reading about the Nobel Prizes, and buried in that list of familiar Western names was one that stopped me, Tu Youyou, a name that sounds like a lullaby, quiet and almost forgotten. But her work, it shook the world. Millions of lives saved, and somehow most people still don't know who she is. Tu Youyou is a Chinese chemist who, in the 1970s, pulled a life-saving drug out of a 1600-year-old herbal scroll. And not metaphorically, literally. She discovered Artemisinin, the key ingredient for today's frontline treatment against malaria. That disease used to kill millions, and her work changed that. She wasn't a flashy academic or high profile scientist. She was a quiet researcher working in the middle of the Cultural Revolution, when Chinese science was isolated and unstable. She wasn't even allowed to travel abroad, and she had no doctoral degree or experience outside of China. But she had the mission. Malaria was decimating soldiers during the Vietnam War, and China launched a top secret military project to find the cure. It was called Project 523, and in 1969, Tu was brought in to lead the traditional Chinese medicine research team. She and her group went through over 2,000 ancient herbal prescriptions. One obscure text from the 4th century, Emergency Prescriptions Kept Up One's Sleeve by Ji Hong, mentioned using sweet wormwood, Artemisia annua, for treating fever. But it wasn't until Tu noticed one critical detail that everything changed. The recipe said not to boil it, but to soak it in cold water. That one sentence flipped everything. She realized that the active compound must be heat sensitive, so she adjusted the method and used low temperature ether extraction. That's how artemisinin was born. She tested it on mice, it worked. On monkeys, still worked. Then she did something that almost no researcher today would be allowed to do. She took it herself. Before any human trials, she swallowed her own extract to prove it was safe. After that, they tested it on malaria patients in Hainan. The results were staggering. People recovered in days. She didn't patent it, she didn't profit, and she didn't get famous. Not for decades. The drug went global, lives were saved, but her name stayed quiet. That all changed in 2011 when she received the Lasker Award, sometimes called America's Nobel. And finally, in 2015, 44 years after the discovery, Tu Youyou was awarded the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine. She shared it with two other scientists who worked on parasite treatments, but her part was unique. She was the first Chinese woman to ever win a Nobel in any scientific category. At the time, only 12 women had ever received that scientific prize since it began in 1901. She didn't give a long speech. She said she was honored that Chinese medicine is a great treasure. She never worked for glory. She just kept going, kept reading, testing, and trusting in all knowledge and modern discipline. A scientist with no international lab, no fancy equipment, and no spotlight. And yet she unlocked one of the most powerful medical discoveries in the 20th century. So tonight, remember this. While the world celebrates the loudest voices, it's often the quiet ones, flipping through old texts, working through the night, testing herbs one drop at a time, who carry the cures. Got a weird midnight question keeping you up? Or someone forgotten you think deserves their moment? Drop it in the comments. Thanks for listening. This was Ghost of Genius. Until next time, keep wondering. I am Mari and this is Midnight Question.